Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Monday's Insights and Innovations. And today we've got our very, very special friends at SCA joining us, and some special guests in the form of Kim Moseby, who's Listener's Head of Digital and Product. And today we're going to break down all of AdTech's the changes and innovations in AdTech that are affecting audio in the media landscape and all that's possible. And as we're just discussing offline, it's a different world today, and there is so much opportunity for agencies to tap into. So, without further ado, we will hand over to Kim, and she'll take things over.
Thanks, Sam, and thanks everyone for being here. We've called this presentation Demystifying AdTech because AdTech is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and I think it can potentially be quite confusing or overwhelming because technically the word AdTech involves a lot of what digital is and what digital can do. So I wanted to kind of distill it down. So if we look at things really plainly, so we at Listener have an AdTech hub. So what is that? A hub is basically a plan for the development of technologies that expand our capabilities around the delivery of digital inventory across our channels. So it's what are we going to build next? What tool are we going to make available? And we're really doing that with consideration to what are advertisers trying to achieve and how can tech help you achieve it more simply and in a way that isn't onerous in terms of budgets. So what does that mean for brands? Personalization is basically an expectation now from consumers in terms of you open an app, you expect that app to remember who you are, or a website to remember what you did last time you went there, what was something that was left in your shopping basket, what are the products that should be given to you first. And that personalization also translates into advertising. People understand that the idea of advertising is that they get that great free product. The value it exchanges ads. Now, if we can make the ad experience more personalized, more relevant to that user, then that's better for both the brand and the person listening. So what an ad tech hub is designed to do is to make those advertising capabilities of personalization frictionless. We understand that nobody's budgets are necessarily getting any bigger. So how can we help brands spend that revenue in a way that achieves on the ROI that they're trying to, or the objectives that they're trying to achieve, and thus delivering ROI. So hopefully you guys have seen this kind of beautiful, colourful stack that we at Listener use to talk you through what is basically our ad tech stack. On the left is everything that is a capability, and on the right is an example of how you might use that. So the things at the bottom are basically the table stakes or the minimum requirements to deliver digital campaigns. You have to host your product somewhere. With SCA, we host our content, on AIS. Then you have to have some sort of ad server that can put ads into that content. With us, one of those is AdSwiz. Then you have to have a CDP or a customer data platform, which is where you house all the information about those people who are coming into your environment. What are they consuming? What content are they listening to? What device are they coming to you on? All of those sorts of things that help us start to paint a picture of who are these people, what makes them tick, and how these people the same or different from each other. On top of that, we have first-party data. So that's the benefit of Listener, obviously, for us is that we have signed-in users. So people come into our environment, they log in using their email address, and there's a bit of stuff that they give us as part of that login process, such as their age, their gender, their postcode, those sorts of things. And then there's first-party data that we can collect based on their consumption of our content. So they listen to a lot of sport content, thus we know that they love sport. They are signing on, and we can see geographically that they are in Melbourne, for example. We know not only by their postcode that they told us, but also by where their device is pinging from that they are in Melbourne. So those are the sorts of things that we collect as first party. Then on top of that, you can also layer advertiser data. So advertisers over the years, anybody who's got a loyalty program, all of those sorts of things are collecting customer data. And that is incredibly valuable to a brand to better understand who are my most high value customers? How do I find more people like them? And how do they like to be spoken to? And then on top of that is DCO, or dynamic creative optimization. And DCO is really about hyper relevance. How can you speak to a person about the moment they are living and experiencing right now and make your brand the hero of that moment? So to deliver a successful ad tech campaign, you don't necessarily have to have every element from this stack. It's about making combinations that, as I say, deliver on that ROI and is creating that relevance and personalization for a user that means your brand resonates with them. So the consumer benefit of that, as I said, is that personalized experience. They also get greater enjoyment out of that, and the ads are higher relevance. Now, the reason there's a little dog icon on the higher relevance is because I know if I get served an ad for cat food as opposed to dog food, that this is not a personalized ad for me, because I am a crazy dog lady. And if somebody serves me cat ads, then that means that that brand or that platform that is serving me ads doesn't know me as well as it probably should. And it's the same for parents. It's the same for grocery buyers. It's the same for people who catch public transport or drive a car to work. All of those sorts of things, you know, that value exchange that I talked about before is so much higher if that ad is either educating you, telling you about a service or a product that makes your life easier, saves you money, tells you how a brand is solving the problems of your day-to-day life. So those personalized experiences, as I say, personalization is now an expectation. So how can brands fit into that? And that's where ad tech kind of solves the problem or is the final piece of the puzzle. But if we think about every individual user, no one person is one thing. Ad tech enables you to identify different users across different times of the day and then speak to them as that part of who they are. So we've got one person here, let's call him Sam. And Sam could be one of any four things. He could be interested in health and fitness. He works in business. He might be a parent and he likes shopping online. So at any one moment, Sam could be one of those four things. But how do we use our different targeting capabilities through ad tech or through audience segmentation to speak to him in a way that really resonates in that moment he is living right now? So one example there is the interested in health and fitness. Now, you could, for example, just look up the segment name interested in health and fitness and target people who have expressed that interest based on the content they consume or something like that. But another thing that you could do is within our app, we have what's called an SDK. Everybody's phone has all these signals on all the time. Two examples that I will give you is one is Google. When you open Google and you've all had that little blue slice of pizza that knows what direction you're facing, that is your magnometer. It is on in everybody's phone all the time. The other one is you've got your phone in your hand and it's the image is portrait. You turn your phone to the side. Now the image is landscape, that's your gyroscope. So there's all of these sensors that are in your phone all the time working just to make your phone do its basic functions. So if Sam is moving along at a certain pace in a certain direction and his phone is moving like this, we know that he's walking. Now if he's doing that but faster, now Sam is running. So when is the best time to serve Sam an ad based on the fact that he's interested in health and fitness and I'm Nike and I wanted to tell him about the most comfortable running shoes he could be wearing? That moment is whilst Sam is running. So what ad tech is able to do is deliver an ad in the moment that he is most receptive to hearing about the product they have on offer. The ad itself is still just a 30-second ad. It's about reaching the person in the mindset and the moment that your brand is really going to stick to them and is solving a problem for them. The next one is, for example, occupation business. So it might be that we're going to use time targeting and speak to Sam on a weekday in the afternoon when we know he's sitting at his desk. He's been sitting there for a while. And so we want to talk to him about his 3:30 slump or, you know, how is your brand going to help him get through the rest of the day? The next one might be demo parenting. Now, one thing, again, that we see brands quite often do is just targeting parents or targeting content that is for co-listening with kids. Another one to think about is something like smart speakers. So smart speakers, think of it like contextually buying somebody's living room or their kitchen. Most people who own a smart speaker, the majority of them are in those shared living spaces, like your kitchen, your living room. Quite often that is one space. So if you time target to smart speakers at about 3:30, 4 o'clock on a weekday, you are quite likely to get parents who've just brought their kids home from school. They're making them a snack, they're setting them up. It's all about that moment that they are living right now. Other brands that do really well with smart speaker targeting is things like insurance, because right now you are listening to audio and you are surrounded by the things that you love the most, that you care about, whether that's your house, your contents, your kids, your own health. So in that moment is a moment for brands to connect with the person and the experience that they're living right now. And then the next one is online shopping. So if we see, say, an online shopper, what we'd love to do is then retarget that person. So we serve them an ad saying you should buy XYZ brand, but then also target them again later. So serve them what we call a second screen ad, which is a follow-up ad with a call to action and a click-through URL driving them to the website location. So again, it's about that idea of building up frequency. But if you're targeting people who are already online and that's how they're consuming the content, then they are most likely the people who will continue with online behavior and shop online. So it's all about understanding that no one person is one kind of audience or one kind of consumer. So how do you speak to them in a way that resonates with the moment they're in right now, makes your brand sticky with them? One thing that's really kind of a buzzword at the moment, or that will come up quite a lot, is talking about clean rooms. Clean rooms, although not a physical room, are a really exciting opportunity for brands. And I touched on it before around the idea that a lot of brands have built loyalty programs. You've been collecting customer data, email addresses, this kind of customer buys this product, this kind of customer buys that product, these clients are lapsed. The idea of a clean room is how do brands create value from the work they're already doing in terms of collecting customer data. So with our clean room solution, the brand's data is brought into our clean room. Our partnership is with a company called DataCo. And so in our clean room is all of our data, as well as ANZ merchant data. So what that means is we can understand somebody who listens to the Triple M network, or somebody who listens to Hamish and Andy, or someone who listens to streaming music in general. What are they doing when they are not doing that action of streaming or consuming our audio content? How much of their disposable income do they spend at the supermarket? Does that index over or under the Australian general population? What are the pressure points on their lives? Are they more likely to say go to spend their money at the supermarket or on home furnishings? What this starts to do is help us understand who those people are outside of just their siloed experience with our brand. And by bringing another brand and advertiser brand's data into that, it means we can match all three sets of data together. And this is where a brand's own customer data all of a sudden becomes really powerful and helps return on ROI. So there's a number of ways that you can use clean room data. The first is to create lookalike audiences. So a brand has brought their data in and they've said, these are all the people that shop with me every week. They all spend X amount of money. I want to find more customers like this. Then it's the concept of birds of a feather flock together. So if we can see that this group of people who are this client's most high value customers, they shop at this supermarket, they listen to this podcast, they stream on this kind of device at this kind of time of day, we can paint a really full picture of these are the people we want to attract more of. So what we do is we create another group of people who in every way behave online in our environment through their shopping, everything else, just like this client's most high value customers. The only difference is they don't shop with this client. So we target that group of people and say, these are the people who are most likely to be able to be converted to the client's brand and buying from them, whether that's online, in-store, whatever it is. So lookalike audiences are incredibly valuable in terms of ROI, in terms of being able to target them specifically. The next one is content consumption. So if you bring your data into a clean room, certainly with us, because we've got a lot of obviously our own data in there. As I said before, we would understand what podcasts they listen to, what kind of music they like. What that helps a brand do is a couple of things. One, build strategy. So are they more likely to listen to a streamed radio brand versus a podcast? That helps me understand where I should be investing my money. But more than that, you might go, right, well, they like this kind of music. So should that be the music bed that I'm putting under my 30-second creative? They like male podcasters. Right, I should use a male VO. It really helps brands understand that idea of what is the sound, what is the feeling that's going to resonate, what message is really going to help me stick, and then what strategy do I use to roll out that campaign. The next one is known customers. Now, something I think a lot of people can resonate with is the experience of hearing a brand that you are a customer of, and this is quite popular with banks, telcos, electricity companies, talking about a rate that is only available to new customers. So how great would it be to not have to hear that you are getting a worse rate than somebody who hasn't shown loyalty to that brand? So an example there would be a brand brings their data in. We suppress all the people we already know are your customers because A, we've already got their custom. We don't need to necessarily preach to the converted. But B, when we could even segment them differently. So deliver a loyalty message to the people who are your loyal customers and say, thank you very much for being a customer. This is what we're offering you, or the continued good service you'll get from us. But they're not hearing about how somebody who hasn't shown loyalty to them might get a better rate on their mortgage, or might get a 12-week discount on their health insurance, or whatever that thing is that might make them go, but hold on, what about me? So your known customers can also be broken down into segments. So what I mentioned before about the idea that not every customer you have is the same. If you've got a range of products, whether that be by price, by range, in terms of, a big box store might have clothing, homewares, pet stuff, school supplies. Every one of those groups of customers is really different. And understanding why they are different is incredibly powerful for a brand to understand how to attract more people like that, or how to kind of spread your budget based on where you are getting the most return. So if you know your people who come for your most expensive product look like this, the people who are your most known return customers look like this, maybe your lapsed customers who haven't been back and shopped with you in 6 months, they look like this. What that helps you understand is where to spend your marketing budget, how to, with those other audience or those other, capabilities, how to build the ads to resonate with those people, and then actually only deliver inventory or ad units to the people in those segments that matter to you. It's all about, again, that idea of knowing that budgets aren't stretching any further. How do we make every dollar that you spend work harder? The next one is purchasing habits. So as I said, we've got in our clean room ANZ merchant data, understanding what people or customers are spending their money on that is not with your brand. Lets you know where you fit in their life. And if they're not spending it with you, what are they doing as an alternative? So one really great example is if people are spending a lot of money on going out to entertain, but you are a DIY company, how can you tell them that you don't have to spend so much money going out to entertain? If you do some DIY at home, you can have friends over, save money by entertaining at home. It's all about understanding what is something that your brand can be the solution for in these people's lives. So understanding their purchase habits outside of the silo of their experience with your brand, and building strategies, whether that be creative or based on actual media placement, on that knowledge. Then the last one is share of spend. So one thing that we can see in the clean room is kind of a ranking of share of wallet for a customer. So data is ingested and we can say, right, this brand within their merchant category, let's call it real estate or insurance or something like that, we can see that on the top 10, they're number 4. So they might go, right, how do we use these other capabilities to go from number 4 to number 3? Now, in the first instance, we see them as numbers, 1 to 10. With the brand's permission, we can actually get that as a percentage. So you understand how to look at it beforehand, know where do I sit? Where do I sit in comparison to my competitors? Build a strategy about that using all of these other tools like your content consumption knowledge, knowing what podcast or streaming you should buy, how you should build that creative to resonate with those audiences, and then do a dip again at the end of the campaign and say, right, is the result of what I did an increase in my share of wallet, which was my objective for the campaign? And then basically this becomes cyclical. So the idea with anything related to ad tech is that campaigns aren't linear. You don't start with a budget, put in a brief, do the campaign and then do a PCR at the end that tells you the results of your campaign and thanks very much. The results of one campaign is the beginning of your next one. So you just keep refining and improving your strategy over and over until you've got basically what is perfect. And then we start optimizing in real time. There's so many things that ad tech has the capability to start doing. In terms of an example, what I wanted to show you is the listener audience. So we know from our clean room solution that the listener audience is responsible for $50 billion worth of discretionary income spend. And when I say discretionary, that is outside of their mortgage and rent and the things that keep their life ticking. We know that all of our users in general over-index in spending on at the grocery store, so they're more likely to spend at the grocery store than the average Australian. But we know that streamers, if we look at them as a particular audience, are more likely to spend at department stores, whereas podcasters are more likely to spend on entertainment. But if I dig into streamers more specifically, much as you might look at product level, we could look at brand level. So I can tell that the difference between a hit streamer and a Triple M streamer. So a hit streamer is more likely to order something that is a delivery service or can be ordered online and lower cost items. So they're more likely to shop at a Kmart or a big box store. Whereas a Triple M listener, and this is what is quite interesting, are actually more likely to spend their money on homewares and new shoes. Now, I think data is quite interesting when you find something that's counterintuitive. The idea that Triple M listeners actually spend a significant amount of their income on homewares is probably counterintuitive to what a lot of people would think. But what that would help us do as a brand is understand how to speak to them or what would be of interest to them in terms of pricing or things like that. So if you apply that same thinking to your brand, all of a sudden you're looking for things that are maybe anomalies in data that make your campaigns more powerful. So I'm going to play a video that kind of brings together how adding this knowledge ahead of building a campaign, understanding your audience and what your brand does in terms of answering their needs, then using ad tech to speak to those audiences in ways that are really personal and in the moment. And then at the end, obviously, that brings about some really great insights which help us plan the next campaign.
In Australia, Berocca was synonymous with hangovers. Yes, this may solve a very real problem for booze-loving Aussies, but it was limiting Berocca's relevance and growth potential, and Berocca's brand health had been declining. But Berocca is a product that can give people energy in all sorts of moments all through the day. So we asked ourselves, how might we use the listener audio network to drive relevance for Berocca in more situations? The answer, we insert the brand into those occasions, right into the ears of people, right when they're experiencing those moments of lag. Hack the Lag delivered a world-first media solution, the use of live in-mobile sensors for dynamic creative optimization. At Listener, we call these live context dynamic triggers. And for Berocca, they were combined with time of day, interest and demographic targeting to deliver relevant and contextual messages to people in real time. Essence Mediacom's brief was to target audience need states and moments. Listener tapped into a partnership with Number 8 to take this real time. We knew when they were running and served them this.
Not every run can be the best run. Barocca can help you hack the lag.
We knew when they were working and served them this.
Well, I can't help you with the emails, but Barocca can help you hack the lag.
We knew when they were commuting and served them this.
If you're hit with the travel lag today, beat it with Barocca Energy.
In fact, we had 30 potential audio ads that a listener could be served dynamically in the moment where their behaviour triggered the message. We arrested the decline of Barocca's brand health metrics. Those exposed to the campaign were 11% more likely to recall Barocca without being prompted, 48% more likely to purchase Barocca in the next month, and their NPS for Barocca increased 60 points post-campaign. 71% of those who recalled the campaign took action as a result. A world-first media solution achieved on a small budget. That's a long way from a hangover for this brand.
And I think the mention that was a small budget, I think that's the other important thing to just end on, is that the ability for ad tech to be applied to campaigns isn't limited by budget. It doesn't cost a lot or sometimes anything to use insight to apply clever targeting such as smart speaker or age and gender or device targeting, time targeting, all of those sorts of things. It's all about how are you getting to the point of knowing to do that. So using those insights we can provide through the knowledge of our audience from ad tech to ensure that you're building a strong strategy with clever and thoughtful creative to the platform that you are delivering it on and within the content. And then from there, ensuring that we can execute a campaign that delivers on all your ROI.
Amazing. Thank you, Kim. And thank you, SCA, for all your support of the independent sector. So we really appreciate all your ongoing support. Thank you, members, for tuning in for today's session. We'll put the recording out later on today and put that in the leadership thread and also the newsletter. Just a reminder to everyone that in Melbourne on the 17th, we've got Pitchcella finals. So for all the finalists in that's going to be the final of that on the 17th at the Bells Hotel. The following week, we're off to Brisbane for the 24th for Christmas in July for our networking event in Brisbane. On the 30th, we're back in Melbourne for Soundbites. So a lot of you would have seen the Sydney Soundbites event last week. We're back in Melbourne and we've got some fantastic guests there in terms of Nick Revolt and a whole bunch of other fantastic insights. And then finally, our Fast Future and Present event on the 16th of October. And we will be announcing our special keynote speakers very, very soon. So watch out for that space. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, SCA, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.